was an eventful race at Bristol. Was it entertaining? I don't know. Let's talk about that. But it's good to have all of you with us once again. My name is Dan. This is my son, Nick. I'm at home. He's back at college again. This is how we enjoy the NASCAR Cup season together. How you doing, Nick?
I'm good. And was it entertaining? I would say, yeah. It got a little messy in there. Stage two, stage three hit. It evened out. The guys I like shined, and I'm sure you liked the result, didn't you?
Oh, yes. Let me just take a moment right here. And yes, I'd like to thank Christopher Bell for winning this race.
Yeah, there you go. You said you'd keep picking him till he wins, and I guess you don't have to pick him anymore because he won.
But Nick, do you know who's the last driver to win at Martinsville?
Uh, Christopher Bell.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe a strong pick for this week, but I mean, I was happy with the Bell win. And like I said earlier, the guys that I like shined. Reddick got second, Austin Dillon third, Stenhouse fourth, Briscoe fifth. It just keeps going. I loved it.
We had a Bell and Reddick showdown at the end of the race. It got cut short by the last, I don't know, 3/4 of a lap or however many it was. Do you think anything was going to happen on that last lap if not for the caution?
I don't know. I mean, Reddick had been pushing for it had to have at least been 20 laps, but I don't think he was closing that gap enough to make a pass. It really was 3/4 of a lap. I don't think anything could have happened for Reddick to go for the win.
I don't think that he would have wrecked himself or Bell to allow Austin Dillon to sneak in there. I don't think Reddick was going to do that.
Yeah.
But that was a good finish. It was nice to see those two guys up there fighting for the win. Like you said, it was nice to see some of those other guys running up front. I don't know. There's a lot of other things we can talk about here. We could talk about cautions every 5 laps. We could talk about Kyle Larson. What do you want to talk about, Nick?
I mean, especially the cautions, that was kind of a stage two thing that they get started, they'd go like a lap or two, and then there'd be a caution, they run under caution, and it just repeats, which I was starting to get annoyed with that. I would have been angrier if it kept going. It eventually kind of stopped, and stage three was mostly clean, but still it kind of got messy.
So, would you like to see them race on dirt again next year?
I would like to see it. I think it's a nice little gimmick race. It's only once. It's not a big harm. The only thing is the stands were not really packed, and I mean it is Easter.
No.
It was Easter. I don't know. Dirt might have an effect on ticket sales, though.
Well, it seems like the dirt was, like you said, it was kind of a gimmick in order to draw more fans and draw more eyeballs. But yeah, I think right now the fall night race is probably drawing more people than this dirt race did
Yeah.
by a long shot. Maybe that's because it's a playoff race. I don't know. Do you think that Ryan Preece was within his right to crash Kyle Larson out of this race?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of more lenient with these guys, and Ryan Priest, he's not like some top contender. I felt bad for the guy for getting in it with Larson. I know all these guys, all these other people are gonna side with the Hendrick guy. I'm gonna side with Priest on this one. It was an accident.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Priest he's been running strong lately. He's been I think maybe this time he let his frustration get a little bit too much of him.
And I don't know if he really did intentionally try to take Larson out. He might have just been trying to scare him or just show him his displeasure. Ends up taking Larson out, which was my pick and stinks. But Priest Priest was showing some good signs until he had some issues.
There were some other drivers that had some issues as well. We had William Byron as our consensus top 3 driver. He finished 13th, had a little bit of trouble here and there.
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney, what can we say? He had a strong car again. He was up front for a late restart and he got turned.
I don't see Blaney winning anytime soon. He's had good cars. He's shown some good signs, but I don't see it happening. I'll get to that. I'll get to that in my rankings later, but it's just been rough.
Bubba Wallace looked early like we were going to have another. This is not a good night for Bubba Wallace, but he rebounded and was able to finish 12th, I think it was.
I did not have much faith in him, and I am surprised that he ended up being 12th. Like Truex was top 10. I don't know if he's really a dirt track guy, but Justin Haley 6th, Gilliland 7th. Harvick managed to somehow get a top 10. I was surprised by that.
Yeah, he
I
kind
thought
of came out of nowhere to get that too.
he really did because he'd been back most of the time. Denny Hamlin, I know we talked about before the race, he qualified poorly, but we figured he might have been holding back or something. He didn't really have much to show in this race at all.
Also, my sleeper pick of Chris Buescher didn't really seem to have anything, even from qualifying through the race.
Mm-hmm.
He survived some of those late mishaps and had I think it was the 18th.
18, yeah.
And who was your sleeper pick? You had
Wasn't it McDowell?
yeah,
Yeah.
McDowell. Boy, he was strong. He had a couple of nifty spins there that he
Yeah,
survived.
he was spinning for sure. And I thought one of those it was just gonna be the end for him, but he managed to survive and not top 10, he got 11th, but still I think that's good for all that he'd been through.
So we had mentioned an episode or two ago that the Hendrick drivers that were penalized because of the louvers got their points back on appeal. What we did not mention last week in our episode was that two Hendrick drivers once again were penalized due to something on what's called the greenhouse on their car. It's a strange name for it, but Bowman and Byron were penalized, and they once again have lost points. And this time Hendrick says they're not going to appeal. So what's going on here, Nick?
I don't know, just shady business. And I even think it was odd that I think those cars were pulled for inspection after whatever race. It just happened to be those two cars. And look, they find something wrong. I think it's a whole shady situation. Something's going on.
Okay, let me give you my theory. So NASCAR was not happy that those drivers got their points back. And so then after the Richmond race, NASCAR said, okay, well, we're gonna take two of those Hendrick cars and we're gonna find something that's wrong with them and we're gonna give them another penalty. That's my theory.
That's possible because they must have purposely been picking Hendrick for both those guys to get picked and both of them to have something wrong with them. Again, it's something like the louver. I didn't really know what the louver thing was. Again, it was something that was like, what is this? What does this affect?
And I feel like Hendrick has probably said, all right, we're not going to appeal this one. We're going to take our medicine because if we appeal this one, we get points back. Then who knows? They're gonna confiscate Larson's car after he's won the next race, and they're gonna take his win away or something like that.
Probably for the best, just to take the penalty. They're not going to be struggling bad for points. I think this was a lesser penalty too. It wasn't as extreme as the louver one. Just take the penalty and keep going.
We ought to mention just real quick a driver that we rarely, if we ever mention on our episodes, and that is Cody Ware, the driver for Rick Ware Racing. You know, he drives the 51, which is a car that's usually running in the back of the field. That's why we don't talk about him very much. But Cody Ware, he had missed the Bristol race for what they said were a personal matter. As it turns out, that personal matter is that he had been arrested for assault on a female.
An alleged assault. He still has his court date. I think it's in May.
Yeah, so he was suspended by NASCAR, and I would expect that we're not going to see him again until we hear, I guess, until he's had his day in court to some extent. It's definitely not a good look.
Yeah, here's the statement from Rick Ware. Basically, they said they understand the NASCAR's position, but they point out how the matter is still under investigation. Cody's cooperating with authorities, and Rick Ware Racing is committed to their efforts in NASCAR. So for sure, not a good look.
So Nick, I'm going to throw out some finishes and see if it surprises you which driver I'm talking about. So I'm looking at the last four races. That's Atlanta, COTA, Richmond, and Bristol. And in those four races, this driver, going from most recent to 4 weeks back, has finishes of 8th, 15th, 10th, and 15th. That driver is Todd Gilliland.
That one for sure is surprising. I didn't know it was that good, actually. I knew he got top 10 at Bristol, but good for him.
Yeah, so 4 straight top 15s, 2 of those being top 10s. Okay, this one actually is going to be an easy guess for you, but it needs to be mentioned. Last 4 races, going from most recent to least recent, 10, 9, 9, and 9.
I think I know this one. It's Ty Gibbs, right?
Yes. So he
Yes, I
broke
know.
his ninth place streak by finishing 10th instead.
I mean, that's great for him. I knew
Mm-hmm.
he'd been on a little top 10 streak, and he's continued it here with Bristol. Not really anything flashy, and not really much to be said on commentary, but he's just been there. He's
Mm-hmm.
been right in the teens, and then he finishes top 10. So good for him with that.
Yes. And they have at least mentioned it a little bit more. I think they're starting to notice, and we'll
Mhm.
see what he can do in the next race. He seems to be pretty strong in this kind of short track season that
Yeah.
we're in. So, with all that said, let's talk about power rankings. Nick, what have you got going on in your rankings after Bristol?
What's this? We've got some breaking news. So we actually recorded our video a little bit earlier in the week before the news came out, but we thought it necessary to come back in with the news that Chase Elliott will be back in the car for Martinsville.
This sure does shake things up. I think this is justified because it's some huge news. It was kind of week to week. It was unknown a couple of days ago if he was going to be back. It could be next week. It could be the week after that. It all just depended on kind of how he was feeling. But now it's confirmed that he's coming.
He also has been granted a playoff waiver. Even though he missed races, he is still eligible for the playoffs. Now, what that means is he would either have to get enough points to get in, which is going to be awfully hard to do after missing this many races, or he just needs to win a race like anyone else.
I still find it very likely that he's going to be able to win a race.
How soon will he win a race?
Will he win it this week? I don't think so. Next week, still unsure. I'll give him 3 weeks, and then he'll be up there for the win, I'd say.
Interesting. I mean, he probably wanted to come back for Martinsville because he's been good at Martinsville. Last season, he was 10th in both Martinsville races. Prior to that, he does have 3 top 5s in recent years, including 1 win at Martinsville.
I don't think it's going to be hard for him to adjust back. He's got the good car. He's got the experience. I don't think it's going to be as wild of an adjustment.
Would you slot him immediately into your power rankings?
I would. I think I'd put him right behind Reddick and above Harvick for me. So in the top 10, near the lower half, but still, I'd put him right back in there. What about you?
Yes, I would put him right back in there, just a little bit lower than you. I'm slotting him in for this first week, right behind Denny Hamlin at number 12 in my rankings. And so what you're going to see on our video, we will update this to show Chase Elliott. Of course, we won't be talking about him when we're talking about the rankings in our video. Do you think this is a good thing that he's coming back now? You think he should have waited? You think it's good?
I mean, if he's fully healthy and they're clearing him off, I think it's good for him to come back. You might as well just get started earlier. And like I said, he's most likely going to win. Why not do it sooner than later?
You know, the NASCAR ratings on TV have been taking a beating. We'll see if this gives them a bump this week.
We'll see.
We look forward to getting this video out Friday evening for everyone to enjoy. Enjoy the race at Martinsville.
I've kept Byron and Larson the same. So Byron 1, Larson 2. I've changed things up a little bit, moving down. Kyle Busch moved up 2, and he's 3rd again. Bell, I had him move up 2, and he's 4th, which means that Logano has dropped 1 to 5th. I think that's a solid top 5. All those guys are great. Chastain has finally moved out of my top 5. Someone who started at the top and moved his way down. I just need to see a win. Or top 3, a win, something. I knew there was nothing to see from him at Bristol, but hopefully he can get back on track.
I have no changes in my top 5. I've still got Christopher Bell number 1, and finally I can back that up with a win under his belt. The biggest mover inside my top 10 was Tyler Reddick, and I now have him up to 6th place in my rankings.
Reddick and Harvick kind of switched just because I feel like Reddick is way more likely to win than Harvick. Reddick's just continually kind of been on the rise. Harvick has been in the middle, like 8, 9, 10 area.
I kind of feel like that the top 15 stands out a little bit more than the top 20. For a couple weeks now, I haven't done a lot with my 16 through 20 rankings just because it does seem so hard to differentiate. A couple drivers that are outside of our rankings that I feel like mentioning right now. One is a guy that I had identified as a sleeper before the season. That's Justin Haley. Hasn't been very strong in a lot of races, but he was good at Bristol, ended up with a great top 10 finish there. Maybe we'll start to see Haley come along a little bit. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Then the other guy that I really wish we could just see him get going is Eric Jones. Once again, he was just pretty mediocre at Bristol. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know that team has been really bad. Gregson hasn't done anything, but I really would like to see Eric Jones get going so we can talk about him more.
I know, I would too. That team as a whole, it's just bad. Not a lot of even like teen results. Even Haley, I do like, and he has surprised me a little bit, but just not enough to really consider him in the rankings yet.
So it really is short track season, short track spring for the NASCAR Cup Series. We've already raced at Phoenix, and then this is going to be the third in a row. We had Richmond, we had the half mile Bristol, and this week we go to the half mile paperclip of Martinsville.
We start with Phoenix, which I didn't like. We get to Richmond, which is better. Let's hope Martinsville is best out of all of them so far.
Last year's 2 races at Martinsville, Christopher Bell was the winner for the playoff race in the fall. That was also the site of Chastain's. What's the name they finally coined that with?
The melon, I forgot. Melon thing, right?
Yeah.
Melon shoot. I don't know. One of the greatest moves of all time. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah, it was that crazy move happened there. But Christopher Bell was the winner there. If you go back to the spring a year ago at Martinsville, William Byron was the winner of that race. So I don't think we're finished hearing from William Byron, not by a long shot.
I don't think so. And I mean, with him winning on Phoenix and Larson winning in Richmond, it's safe to say that there will be a Hendrick presence for sure.
And Byron is really going to want to take out some of his frustration for that penalty by just going and dominating a race. So watch out for William Byron this weekend. Ryan Blaney at Martinsville last year was 3rd place and 4th place. So once again, Ryan Blaney, here's your shot. Here's your shot. Can you do something with it?
Yeah. And I know he got 2nd at Phoenix. I don't remember where he got in Richmond, but this is another chance. Please, Blaney, just go for it.
Ross Chastain, we've talked about him already, but he was 4th place and 5th place in the 2 races at Martinsville last year. So this might be Chastain's chance to get his first win of the season.
Yes, again, this is a good chance for Chastain as well. I don't think he's going to be pulling any crazy stunts like last race. I don't think it's going to be needed though, because I feel like he'll be riding up front most of this race.
Do you think anybody is going to try anything like that at Martinsville?
I think it's banned by now. I don't think you're allowed to. Chastain did it, and NASCAR had to say no more fun, and I think you'll get penalized or something for that move.
Another driver with top results at Martinsville last year in the next gen car was Joey Logano. He had finishes of 6th in the fall and 2nd in the spring. Martin Truex Jr., while he hasn't finished better than 7th this year, in recent years, it's not incredibly recent, but he does have 2 wins at Martinsville, and he's always somebody to deal with on the short tracks. So it's possible that we could see Martin Truex Jr. running up front. Maybe things work out for him that he can stay up front, or maybe he ends up with a 5th through 6th place finish, something like that again.
So who do you think is going to come up with the win here at Martinsville?
Probably the guy that I think is the most likely to win this one. Tell me if I'm stealing him right out from under you. I think it's going to be William Byron this week.
You're not stealing him. He was up there for me. I'm kind of surprised you didn't double down with Bell again this week.
I really did. I really want to, but I didn't. I don't. He'll be strong. I don't know that he's going to win 2 in a row right now.
Me personally, I was going to go Hendrick, but then I got a little creative. I'm going to follow in your footsteps. Last week, you picked one of your favorite drivers. You picked your top guy, and he came out with a win. So I'm picking Chastain this week.
Well, then we've got a lot of guys left over that we could talk about as a top 3 contender. Who do you think we ought to go with on that?
I mean, there's always Larson as an old reliable top 3. I like Logano as a 3.
Yeah, maybe we could get Christopher Bell up there as a 3.
Christopher Bell, I don't see anything wrong with the Christopher Bell 3. He's proven that he has what it takes to win. I think he could be up there in the top 5 this whole race. So you want to go with Bell? I'll go with
let's
him.
go with Bell as a top 3.
I'm fine with that pick. Who's your sleeper?
All right, tell me if you think this guy can qualify as a sleeper, or is he too much for that? I want to pick Chase Briscoe.
I think that's a fair sleeper, considering who I'm going to pick. But Briscoe, definitely a sleeper. You think he's got what it takes?
Yes. Now, I would like to hear, he drove Bristol with a broken finger. I would like to hear if he had surgery on that and how the recovery from that is going. Because, of course, Martinsville, you're probably going to be shifting even more than you were at Bristol. But it certainly didn't seem to hold him back. I think Chase Briscoe is strong on these short courses. So he's my sleeper pick for this week.
Well, for me, I'm counting this guy as a sleeper. I don't care. He hasn't won. He's a sleeper in my eyes. I resisted the temptation of a Hendrick driver as my win. I'm going with Alex Bowman as my sleeper pick.
He's had good results for sure, but we haven't seen a near Bowman win yet. We've just seen him always there at the end.
Yeah. And he was 9th at Phoenix and 8th at Richmond. So not top contender status, but I like him as a sleeper for this race.
We'll have practice and qualifying on Saturday. Hopefully the weather is going to be good. We lost out on practice. We still got the qualifying heats last week at Bristol, so that was neat to watch. But when they can have practice and good conditions for qualifying, it really does make a difference of seeing which cars are strong and which ones are not.
I feel like the winner of this race is gonna start 1 through 5, and they're just gonna lead most of this race. I just have that sort of feeling about this. Hopefully it'll be Chastain. Watch it be like Byron on the pole, but that's kind of what I'm feeling for this race.
Well, thank you everybody for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We do appreciate everyone who's watching, and we will all look forward to watching the race at Martinsville. Nick, I look forward to talking to you more about that, and we'll see you all for our next episode next week.